I'm Judy Zelina. This is the Millcreek Government Channel. Driving safely in eerie winter weather can be a challenge for even the most experienced driver. It's easy to forget after months of mild conditions that snow and ice demand careful driving and special preparation for your vehicle. Joining us today in the program to give us some tips on winter safe driving and how you should prepare your car is Saxon Doherty, Penndot Safety Press Officer. And also joining us today on the program is going to be Jillian Harry. Jillian is Penndot's District Press Officer, and she will be giving us a behind-the-scenes look at Penndot's winter maintenance and operations. Saxon, welcome to the program. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is a subject none of our viewers really want to hear about, but it's coming. One way or the other, you're going to have to prepare for it.
Yes, that's for certain. We can't escape that here in this corner of Pennsylvania.
No, we can't. You know, when we think of winter, we prepare ourselves with our hats, coats, gloves, scarves. But we also have to prepare our vehicles for winter. So first off, what are some of the things that motorists can do to prepare their vehicle?
Sure. So first thing is really you just want to make sure that your car is operable and can handle the winter conditions. So getting just a routine maintenance inspection goes a long way. Whether or not you're due for one, you can still get it checked out by a mechanic. So that might be a good idea just to maybe get in front of some problems that may pop up during the winter months. You want to ensure that your radio is working, because not just to listen to music, but to be able to hear traffic alerts that maybe would go out over the radio. So
I never thought of that. That's a good point.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Again, most people use their phones for music, but radios still do have a purpose in this day and age. Also, just routine maintenance things. So check to make sure that your windshield wipers work properly, and they're not worn out that would leave marks or kind of smudge up your windshield. Visibility is obviously a big part of driving in the winter, making sure that you can see clearly and be safe. Also check your fluid levels. Make sure that you have oil, windshield wiper fluid, and again, that could be part of the mechanical inspection. They can check that for you. And then tires are a big component of winter maintenance and driving. So I would make sure that your tires are properly inflated first and foremost, and then ensure they have proper tread depth. And if you're going to get winter tires, now would be the time to start looking into those.
Okay. Now, I remember talking with you guys before, and you always recommended, along with checking out your vehicle, to make sure in your vehicle you have an emergency travel kit.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, what do I need to put in that travel kit? And you should get that ready, like right now, before the snow flies, correct?
Absolutely. You don't want to have to be scrambling to gather things last minute, so now's your chance to do it. And it's not a lot of difficult things to find. It's a lot of routine things that you'll find in your home. So start with just some warm clothes and blankets. You never know if for some reason you had to stop on the side of the road. You want to make sure that you can stay warm in the frigid conditions. You make sure that you have an ice scraper. That should seem pretty self-explanatory, just to be able to clear your windshield and your windows for visibility. Have some non-perishable food items, things you can rely on or have in the case of an emergency. Jumper cables, maybe not just for yourself, but to help somebody else that may need a start on the side of the road.
Okay.
Your cell phone, make sure that it's operable and charged, because that's your lifeline nowadays, is to be able to call for help. Also, flashlight. You never know if you're in the middle of the night and you pull over on the side of the road, that'll help maybe get you around a little bit. And then this might seem a little weird, but a shovel, in case you get stuck and need to maybe dig yourself out of some high snow. So just things like that, nothing that's real difficult to get your hands on, but they should all be kind of collected in one place and stored in maybe your trunk of your car, so you're prepared in the event of anything.
Because quite honestly, with eerie weather and doing any type of traveling on any interstate, you never know.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Exactly.
So it's why it can't hurt to be prepared. Even if you never need it, at least you were ready.
That's right. Now, as I'm driving along in my vehicle, that's all prepared, and I've got my first aid kit, I am going to run into, of course, on icy, snowy roads, plows.
Yes.
What should we be aware of with plows and certain safety procedures?
Well, first off, I'd like to remind everybody that exercise patience. The plow drivers are doing quite a big job, as you could expect, and it can take at least 2 hours for them to get back to the start of their plow route. So the roads aren't going to be bare when there's snow falling at any time, so just keep that in mind. As far as safety is concerned, you want to stay out of the danger zones around plows, which would be right behind the plow. So give it about 6 car lengths distance behind it, and then right next to the plow. So in no circumstances should you be trying to pass a plow,
Okay.
Or even get behind two plow or get between two plows that are going next to one another, which we call a plow train. So just to make sure you keep your distance, stay behind them, never pass them, and give them their room to do their jobs.
How often do they do, I've seen that on the interstate, the plow train, the two together. What is the purpose of that?
I don't know if there's a set number of times that they do it. It might just depend on the conditions of the roadway,
Okay.
but that really just helps get both lanes cleared in a shorter amount of time.
Okay, now in the event of a winter emergency and you're in a stopped car or you're driving and your car has stalled, what should a driver do?
Well, first, stay in the car. You don't want to be outside. That could be a really dangerous spot on the side of the road, particularly on an interstate with cars traveling at a higher rate of speed. But don't overexert yourself. Just kind of remain calm. If you can, if you have some sort of markers or flags that you can put on an antenna or a window just to help with visibility, because in a blizzard or a whiteout, anything that has some color to it might stick out to other motorists. Try not to run your car the whole time, because that could lead to some carbon monoxide poisoning. So kind of if you need to start your car for a few minutes to let the heat run, then turn it right back off and just kind of spare that. Don't overexert it. And then just again, remain visible and try to contact somebody to come help you.
Saxon, what would you suggest? Say I'm driving, and this has happened to me too, and I'm in a whiteout, and I really cannot see. Do you suggest I just drive through, or should I find some place to pull over?
Yeah, it probably varies. I mean, the type of vehicle you're in and the conditions, but I would recommend if you're not comfortable at all, and if you have any hesitancy about driving in the weather, just pull over to the side of the road. But again, make sure that you remain visible, have your four-way flashers on, do everything you can to be seen by other motorists so you don't cause another crash. But again, don't risk it. Don't try to be a superhero and plow through the snow, because that could really have some devastating consequences, not for you, but other people along on the roadway.
Thank you. I'm not looking forward to that. But just in case it happens,
Sure.
I've always wondered, should I pull over, or should I just try and keep going and try and find some taillights to follow? Now, people are going to be out walking in the winter. Of course, you've got pedestrian traffic also. What are some tips for our pedestrians to stay safe?
Well, much like motorists, you want to remain visible. So wearing bright colored clothing goes a long way, and being seen from farther distance. Try to stay on the sidewalks. I know sometimes that's hard if they plow onto the sidewalks and the snow gets pretty high, but make sure you stay as close to the sidewalk as you can, and make sure you're going against the traffic so that, again, they can see you. Make sure that the drivers have plenty of time to stop if you're approaching an intersection. Again, take into account that the roads could be slick and they might not be able to get stopped like they would in normal dry conditions. And then check both directions, left, right, and then left again before entering any stretch of roadway. And try not to come out unexpectedly, whether that be behind a parked car or behind a larger pile of snow. Again, if the driver can't see you, then they can't stop. So visibility is such a big part of driver safety in general, but the same applies for pedestrians. They have a responsibility to do that as well.
Those are some really good tips. And we're kind of here at the end, but is there anything else that you wanted to remind our viewers for safety?
Sure. So when you get ready in the morning, you might think, let me go warm up my car in the garage and make sure it's nice and toasty for me when I leave for work. Well, that's fine. Never do that in an enclosed space, such as your garage, with the garage door closed. At least prop the door open and allow those fumes to get outside, because that's a dangerous situation. So just keep that in mind. But in general, it's just slow down. Speeding is one of the leading causes of crashes, no matter what the weather's like, but especially in the wintertime, it does not take much. Your margin of error is very small. So just slow down and keep your distance from other vehicles. If they allow you that same distance, it'll help in the event of a crash that you'll have more time to get stopped. And then I always like to remind people, never drive distracted, whether that be eating, using your cell phone, even just daydreaming about other things or plans that you may have. That all can be considered distracted driving. So it's just important to keep your full attention on the road and the task of driving at hand.
Saxon, great tips, great reminders. We think we're all seasoned. We live in Erie, so we're seasoned snow drivers, but we do have to ease into it and be reminded of all these safety precautions. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. and we're going to be having Jill join us, and she's going to be talking about Penndot's actual operations for snow plowing and how they prepare for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, now that we've learned some safety tips with Saxon, we have Jill on the program, and Jill is going to give us a little bit of the behind the scenes of Penndot's winter operations and their maintenance. Welcome again to the program, Jill.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure having you guys on here. I learn something new with every show.
So do I.
So anyhow, now getting prepared for winter. Big undertaking for Penndot.
Yes.
Lot of roads to take care of in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Not just in Erie County. So with snow on the horizon, what does Penndot do to prepare for the winter season?
Well, like you said, Judy, we actually never stop preparing for winter. So it's something we're either adjusting what's happening during winter, we're preparing for the next winter, or we're trying to learn what we can from the past winter. So winter is pretty much always in season at Penndot on some level. But in particular, for really getting into those last minute parts of preparing for winter, we first review all of our routes. So here in Erie County, we have more than 2,000 lane miles that we have to take care of. So that's a lot of roadway. So we're always looking at our routes, where they start, where they stop, to determine the best combination of how to get our plow truck drivers out there to clear the roads as effectively and as quickly as possible. So that's like an early preparation for us. Then as we get closer and closer, then we start outfitting our equipment with the plows. We start ordering the salt, we start mixing the brine and doing all of those other things, so that as soon as we see that snowflake in the forecast, we are already ready to hit action, whatever that would call for based on the temperatures and the precipitation.
Now see, I was going to ask you, when do you start preparing?
We're always preparing for winter.
You know, and it makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Especially, like you says, analyzing the past winter and what you can improve on, or areas that will be needing more attention.
Yes. So, I mean, it is because winter's never going to go away, so we have to always think about how can we do it better? What are the little changes we can make, and sometimes what are the big changes? So over the years, that has led to lots of different discussions about different ways to attack different types of storms, and also different plow routes and ways that we can help each other out. And one of the best examples of that is what we call Cover I-90. So it was a plan that came out of discussions about winter after winter had already happened. How can we more effectively plow the snow on Interstate 90? And I'm sure most of the people watching this travel on I-90 and they know what it's like, and especially in those certain areas that just seem to get way more snow than other areas. So what can we do to do that better? And we came up with this plan that helps us shift our resources when necessary and do it quickly, so that we can get onto I-90 and do shorter routes and get them done in a more effective manner. So we do things like that year round, so we don't have that discussion in the middle of January while it's snowing. We might have that discussion in June when we don't even want to think about the snow, really.
Well, I think you guys do a great job. I really do. But there is a lot of maintenance activity that you guys do. What does that consist of?
In the wintertime, so we're, I'm trying to think of how, we're always watching the weather. So a lot of times people think when it's winter, you're just going to go out and plow the snow, but it's not that simple for us. So we watch the weather. What kind of snow is it going to be? So again, if you're watching this and you've lived in Erie for more than one winter, you know that there isn't just one kind of snow. There's wet snow, and there's fluffy snow, and there's all sorts of different types of snow. So part of our preparations for winter is to make sure that we understand the different types of snow and how we're going to react to those different types of snow. So our plow truck drivers understand when to put down salt, when to put down brine, and when to not put down anything and just plow what's there on the road.
Okay, and this is just through your conversations and through past practices.
Right. Well, we have formal training programs, so we want to make sure all our plow truck drivers understand not just how the machines work, but also how we make the decisions we make, so that they can be part of that efficient system that we have for clearing the roads as quickly as possible.
Okay. When do you guys start putting the plows on the trucks? Now,
In
I know
October.
that doesn't happen in June.
No, that happens typically in October. So today is near the end of October when we're filming this. So our goal is to have at least half of our trucks with the plows on them by the end of this month.
Okay.
So, and then from there, it's a little bit about the forecast, because we don't just stop all the other operations simply because it might snow. So if we get some of those unseasonably warm weather, we might go out and do some of those fall operations instead of sitting around waiting for it to snow. So, you know, there's a lot of adjustments that we try to make in order to give the best service we can to the folks here in Erie County.
Okay, now we get many times some rather large snowstorms.
Yes.
And how do you handle those large snowstorms that directly impact like a certain area of the district?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have what we call mobile equipment teams, or our MET teams. So those are folks who volunteer to go to outside of their county lines, and sometimes even outside of what we call our districts. So here we're District 1, we serve 6 counties. But if they're getting a lot of snow in Somerset, they may say, we need extra equipment, we need extra plow truck drivers. So we'll send some of our folks there if it's not snowing a lot here. Well, we'll also do that just here in our little corner of Pennsylvania. So if I-90 is getting hit, we will move some of our Erie County drivers to I-90, and then we might bring either our Crawford County drivers up or our Warren County drivers over to help cover some of the secondary roads. So we're a big team here beyond just the county lines and even the district lines, and we really do a great job of helping each other out whenever needed.
Now, Jill, how do you decide the priority of road plowing?
Okay.
Because everybody says, why aren't they doing my road?
Yes, I know. And it is a
So you can
difficult
tell
thing.
them.
Yes, it's very difficult. We have a pretty specific way we do it. So the interstates are always first. And that's because they're the lifeline, you know, for such a large amount of folks. So we're going to hit the interstates first. Then we're going to go to our secondary major routes. So up in Erie County, that would be like your Route 6 or your Route 20. And then once we've gotten those roads handled as well, then we're going to focus on the rural routes. Those are the ones that people tend to say, you haven't plowed my road in a while, but it may take us 4 hours to get to those roads. Those routes are typically longer, and it's because the traffic numbers are a little bit lower. So we're trying to get out there and do the roads that impact the most people and then work down from there. So one of the great things about Penndot is we have this website called 511PA. And there's tons of information on there. We could do a whole show just on that website because there's just so much on there. And one of the things that's on there is where you can look and see how they've plowed your route. So you can go on there and say, I want to go from point A to point B, and you can see where they've been along that way, and you can decide if you want to change the way you normally go to go away where they've been out more frequently or more recently.
Wow,
you can also see
really?
where the plow trucks have been. So a lot of our trucks have an automated vehicle location system, or the AVL. And that allows us to know where the trucks have been most recently, so it's within like 5-10 minutes. Also what the trucks are experiencing out there, so there's on some of the trucks we can know what the temperature is around the truck, what the temperature is of the road underneath the truck, and all of that we can use to help us determine should we be plowing, should we be putting salt down, and all that stuff. But for the general public, it lets them know when was a truck most recently in my area, and you might be able to see, oh look, they're headed my way because just a few moments ago they were just down the road. So that can be very helpful. Yeah.
We are going to do a show on 511. Okay, I'm going to have to get on and check this out.
It's pretty neat because if you go on to the 511pa.com and you hit the plow truck, you'll see an icon that shows a truck. So you'll know for sure that you're looking at the right thing. You can zoom in right into your neighborhood and you can see where the trucks might be in your area or along your route to get to work or to pick up the kids from school or whatever you might be trying to accomplish that day.
Oh, great. Well, you guys are right with it. Now, I know when we have like a snowstorm or a blizzard, there are vehicle restrictions.
Yes.
Can we talk about some of those?
Yes. That's something new that Penndot just started doing here the last few years. As coming out of those conversations, how can we do it better? How can we serve the general public better? And most importantly, how do we keep everybody safe during the winter? So we look at different variables about what happens in those crashes in the interstates and things like that, try to recognize conditions that are more likely to cause crashes than that could make everyone held up on the on the interstate for several hours at times and stuff like that. How do we cut down on the likelihood of those things? Well, then we determine that sometimes we need to ask certain vehicles to not travel on the interstates to give us a chance to plow them better, but also because there's something about that particular storm that could make their vehicle more hazardous. So we're talking predominantly about large trucks with empty trailers and recreational vehicles and things of that nature that are more likely to be blown off of the roadway during certain conditions and things like that. So those decisions are made by our state office and then communicated out to us. So we let them know what kind of conditions we're seeing, and they think back and forth about what would be best for everybody. We just want everyone to be safe. So that's our number one concern. We're not worried about you getting there as fast as possible. We're worried about you getting there. So sometimes we ask people to be patient. Maybe you need to pull over. Let us do our job so that you can get there to your destination, even if you have to be a little late.
And I know you've also reduced speed limits.
Yes.
At times too, and that's based on the conditions.
Yes. Yep.
Because you get that word out there very quick. So these
Yeah.
decisions, quite honestly, they have to be snap decisions sometimes.
Yeah,
don't they?
so we have a traffic management center, so they're watching all the time what the weather is, but also the cameras. So again, if you go to 511, you can look at all of our traffic cameras that we have predominantly along the interstates at interchanges and things like that. So we're keeping an eye on what does the road look like in those different areas and what kind of, again, actions do we need to take to adjust maybe how we're plowing or how we're putting the salt down, things like that. And also, do we need to reduce the speeds? Because, speeding, like Saxon said, is a major factor in a lot of crashes. And the wintertime on the interstate, it can be an extremely big factor. So we want people to slow down. We're going to put that up on those message boards. We put it on 511. And the great thing about 511 is that it talks with Google Maps. So even if you're going to a place you always drive to, I'm always telling my friends, just in the wintertime especially, plug it into Google Maps or use 511 because it's going to tell you that information that you need to make those safe decisions.
Yes, definitely, whether you're going to have to take an alternate route or not.
Or give yourself extra time because you're going to be only able to go 45 on the interstate instead of, 55, 65, depending on where you're traveling.
Okay, we're getting towards the end, but I want to ask you a question. I'm going to go way back to the beginning.
Yes.
And what is the difference between brine and salt? You were talking about either salting it, whether you're going to decide whether it's salted or whether you use brine.
Right.
What
So
is that?
we do use a substance that is a wet. So sometimes the roads, we'll try to pre-salt them or we'll brine them before the storm. And again, it depends on the type of weather we're anticipating. So we try to get ahead of it sometimes to keep that ice from forming or the slicker conditions. We can't do that when it's going to just wash back off the roads, but there are times when we can do it. So when those conditions exist, we're definitely going to get out there and do it. So it's a wet substance. It'll stick to the road a little more, whereas salt sometimes under certain conditions, and I'm sure you've seen it before, it seems to just like bounce its way right to the curb or something like that. So we try to avoid that.
Okay.
So sometimes we'll use the wetter solution, the brine, and sometimes we'll just use the salt or the anti-skid, which is what people mostly think of when they think of winter.
Okay, well, thanks for clearing that up. Because
Yes.
I meant to ask you about that.
Yeah, and I should clarify, it's brine that we make. So that was one of the things you asked earlier, like what do we do to prepare? We make the brine.
Okay.
So sometimes people hear that word, they confuse it with other operations that also use the word brine. We're not using it from that, we're making it ourselves. So it's environmentally friendly.
Okay. And Jill, again, where can motorists go to find the most up-to-date travel information?
It's 511pa.com, yes.
Okay.
You will find everything you need there to help you understand the best route to take and when you should just stay home, because you'll see roadway conditions, you'll see speeds and everything like that to help you plan out your trip especially during those winter times and when you need to give yourself extra time to get to your destination.
Well, Jill, we're at the end of our show, but you and I could talk forever.
Yes.
You have to come back because I do want to do a show on the 511. and let people know everything that is available.
Yeah, and check it out in the meantime, because
Okay.
you'll probably
I know I
find
will.
lots of fun stuff on there.
Again, thank you, Jill, for all this information. Saxon for the safety tips. Appreciate you guys coming on the program.
Thanks for having us.
And if you have any questions or if you want to check out 511, and I know you're going to be doing this, so please, again, winter driving, be careful, drive slow. Speed is one of the biggest causes of accidents. We know that here in Erie. Drive slow, be careful. Viewers, thank you for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day.